It's Wednesday, July 8th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. A regional prime minister has accused Barbados of using its majority shareholding in LIAT to run roughshod over the minority stakeholders. And Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown has called on Bridgetown to meet in a last-ditch effort to save the regional airline. Brown, who made the comments while addressing members of the Antigua and Barbuda Workers' Union in St. John's, also revealed that he wrote the prime ministers of the two major stakeholders, Mia Motley of Barbados and Dr. Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, asking them to attend a final meeting to discuss his proposals for reorganizing LIAT.
So, in a last-ditch effort, I have requested a meeting for next Monday, which I believe I'll get, to look at a possible reorganizational plan. We should have that plan completed by Friday. We have individuals working on that plan. But I have to tell you that, the solution will involve some pain. But you're better off having some pain rather than having parts of your body amputated.
The Police Amendment Bill 2020 was brought before Parliament yesterday. The change sought to regulate the appointment of the second Deputy Commissioner of Police to the Royal Barbados Police Force. The Police Act, which was at the center of heated national debate, was first highlighted by opposition Senator Caswell Franklin back in May. Attorney General Dale Marshall told the House of Assembly that the government made the appointment in response to a plea made by Commissioner of Police Tyrone Griffith, who penned a letter to the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs on November 7, 2018. Now, after reading the letter, the chief lawmaker said, despite the opposition, no one said there was no need for two deputy commissioners.
We have spent a lot of time and energies debating the matter of the Commissioner of Police, and as far as I can distill the essence of the debate, the argument has never been that we don't need an additional Deputy Commissioner of Police. Not a fella has said that. The argument has never been that by attempting to create an additional post of police, we were engaging, this administration would be engaging in some flagrant abuse of power, in some licking out of government expenditure, in some ignoble and dishonorable purpose, sir. None of those things were ever canvassed. So that tells me, sir, that at no time could it be said that the Barbadian public felt that the appointment of a second Commissioner of Police was not justified.
But opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley, speaking during the debate, charged that the government was making major mistakes with important pieces of legislation.
What we have represented in this misstep around the appointment of a second deputy commissioner in the way was done prior to today, Mr. Speaker, reflects a persistence in bungling that is disappointing when one recognizes the number of legal persons on the other side, when one recognizes the talent boasted of on the other side. But we can have these repeated major missteps. It's a disappointment. And Mr. Speaker, it started from day one, and it continues up to today, day last. This administration failed to get right what is clearly constitutionally provided for in the appointment of two senators from day one. That was bungled. That was disappointing, but something we would push past But to see repeated bungling at this level on these major issues is quite a concern.
Yet another private sector organization has snubbed the Blackout Tuesday initiative and is encouraging its organizers here to quit mimicking North American initiatives which hold no bearing on the Barbadian reality. Chief Executive Officer of the Small Business Association, Senator Lynette Holder, said, instead of focusing on race, Barbadians ought to be redirecting their funds in support of micro enterprises, which in the local context are disadvantaged and vulnerable.
I think that we are being influenced as a small open economy too much by what we see happening in metropolitan countries, metropolitan cities, right? And we must know what our ideological positions will be on a number of issues, and be able to develop those and carve those out for our own social and economic interests, you see, and not be driven by an agenda couched by pure capitalist ideology and influenced by the metropolitan reality.
Senator Holder stressed that while she understands what supporters of the initiative may have been trying to achieve, the SBA represents a multiplicity of races and refuses to place one over the other.
What we're seeing now and relative to this whole race relations concept is really unfortunate what we're seeing in my view. But the Small Business Association's position has to be one where it fairly represents its membership. And its membership, from an ethnicity perspective, includes all of the major groupings that exist. Our issue is size. That is our concern, size. We want consumers to kindly remember when they're making their purchases to consider small firms.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, 2 cabinet ministers in Bermuda resigned on Monday night after attending an event at a restaurant where COVID-19 regulations were breached. National Security Minister Wayne Keynes and Tourism and Transport Minister Zane De Silva, who was seen on video not social distancing or wearing a face mask, left the cabinet after they accepted an invitation to resign from Premier David Burt. Here's the former tourism minister speaking with reporter Mike Sharp of Bermuda Broadcasting.
The fact of the matter is, as a minister of the government, I should know better. Should have my mask on. Case closed, no doubt. You know, when everyone else stopped to watch the guy play his saxophone, as a minister, I should have said, hey, look, just keep moving. Don't stop. He was there to serenade people on their way out. So that's my mistake. And for that, I have to pay the price for that.
Were you shocked?
I put my hand up and I apologize to everybody. I apologize to the Premier, to my cabinet colleagues, to my caucus colleagues, to the people of Bermuda. Bad mistake, especially since I've been every Wednesday on my show, Tourism in Focus. I've been telling people to listen, look, wear your mask, keep your social distance, do all that. So it's a bad play. So, I deserve to be punished.
Former Minister of National Security Wayne Keynes issued a lengthy apology on Facebook. He said, "I can confirm that I was wearing a mask upon arriving at the establishment. While I was seated, I was not wearing a mask. I shall point out that the COVID-19 restaurant protocols note that patrons are permitted to remove their mask once they're seated. Additionally, restaurant patrons are not required to wear a mask while seated and dining. Regrettably, during the 2 occasions when I was away from my table that evening, I did not remask. For that, I unreservedly apologize."
And finally, the world has not yet reached the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, so warns the head of the World Health Organization, who pointed out that the outbreak is accelerating in some countries.
It took 12 weeks for the world to reach 400,000 cases of COVID. Over the weekend, there were more than 400,000 cases across the globe. There have now been 11.4 million cases of COVID-19 and more than 535,000 lives have been lost. The outbreak is accelerating, and we have clearly not reached the peak of the pandemic. While the number of deaths appears to have leveled off globally, in reality, some countries have made significant progress in reducing the number of deaths, while in other countries, deaths are still on the rise. Where there has been progress in reducing deaths, countries have implemented targeted actions towards the most vulnerable groups. For example, those people living in long-term care facilities.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.